Alright guys, so as requested, I'm going to do a few tutorials on getting us back into After Effects here, just to kind of refresh some of our competencies and hopefully to make your upcoming workload a little bit easier. So again, here in our project panel, I'm just going to double click to open our browser, and I will just bring in a random image, maybe from my downloads. I'll pull this over here. So I brought in a stone image. It's a PNG, so that means it has transparency built into the background. We're going to go to Composition, New Composition. We're going to make certain that we're using a 1920 by 1080, 24 frames per second. And we'll make this composition just... Whoop. Sorry, my mouse is acting a little funky. We're going to make it just 10 seconds long. So there we go. And once again, I'll just drag and drop this, and this brings my asset into my composition window, and now we have a layer for our asset. I'll open the transform node on it, and you can see that we've got anchor point, position, scale, rotation, opacity. And for most of these, we have access to the X and Y coordinates, so the horizontal and the vertical axes of the coordinates. Now, we're just going to move it across the screen. I'm going to go here and maybe in about 5 seconds. So I'll start it right here. We'll click the stopwatch to set our first position keyframe. I'll move about halfway down, and we'll just move our stone across. You can see now that we have this motion path, and After Effects has set our second keyframe for us. Now, this is a, whoops, grab this right here, kind of pull back a little bit. So if I click on the motion path, the keyframes, we'll have nothing. Hold on, let me go set something in my preferences. I forgot to set under Edit, Preferences. I don't use After Effects much in my studio, and remember we're going to go to, I think it was under General, and I want to make certain that default spatial interpolation to linear is turned off, so that now any keyframe I create is a Bezier keyframe. I'm going to go change this one manually. Keyframe interpolation. We'll switch spatial interpolation from linear to Bezier. Now, what that does is it gives us access to these handles where I can shape the motion path of my stone as it moves through space. And remember, we can just block a motion path in and then go back and edit it by moving keyframes around in time if we need to, if we need something to happen a bit faster. We'll do a quick little preview here. And there we go. Brilliant. Alright, so another quick review is, remember, these are linear keyframes, so basically our stone starts moving and stops moving exactly right there. What I'd like to do is I would like to turn these into hold keyframes. So, not hold, sorry, I'd like to turn these into eased keyframes. Pardon me. So we'll right click on it, and under Keyframe Assistant we'll go into Easy Ease. And you can see by the hourglass shape that this is now an eased keyframe. If I want to jump to my next keyframe, remember my keyboard shortcuts. I can hit K to go to my next keyframe. J brings me back to my previous one. So K brings me here. And I'll right click this keyframe as well. And I'll go to Keyframe Assistant, Easy Ease. So now these keyframes are eased. And if you look at the dots on the line, you in fact notice that these dots are closer together than they spread apart. Then as we get near the end, you get where you can see it really well. As we get near the end, the dots get closer together again. And that shows us that we're having acceleration and deceleration. In other words, the movement of this stone is eased. And it slowly moves into place. Alright, nice. Now there's one other keyframe that we need to be aware of, and that is, if I grab both of these like that, right click, and I will toggle hold. The hold keyframe keeps the stone where it is in space and time until we get to the next keyframe. So if I were to play it, the stone will remain in place, and once we get to this next keyframe, it will jump to that point in space. And remember, we can sort of make things happen and, like I said, kind of increase the energy in our space. I'm just going to do a couple here. So I'm going to have the stone kind of pop around. Right now those are defaulting to eases. I'm going to right click and I'll toggle hold. And so now the stone will just kind of jump around the screen. Alright, and I can always combine keyframes together. There's no reason I can't go back to these and go to my keyframe assistant and say, you know, I'd like them to be easy eases instead. And so now the stone will have a combination of jumping and moving in an eased fashion. There you have it. All of our different keyframe types all in one place. Now, it's a really short tutorial, but hopefully this will get you back into thinking about keyframes. Next up, we'll talk about 3D layers and things like that. But this should be enough to get you kind of going back in the right direction.